Welcome, everybody, to Chapter 5, Stories of the Market, bringing you interesting stories from the market to help you understand what's really the truth about how investing works. In Chapter 5, as we were in Chapter 4, we're now going to be talking outside the USA, and actually including the USA. We're talking about the whole world, as we're going to look at an unusual global map, probably a map that you've never seen before, where the physical size of the country on the map is based on the total capitalized value of the stock markets in that country. So how should we invest outside the USA? Well, let's see what the market stories tell us. So here we go. So in this map of the world, let's go down the bottom left and we see the dark gray that represents the United States. We have the gold color here, which is other developed countries outside the US. The turquoise, which is considered emerging market countries. And there's a fourth category, which is very minor countries, which we're not going to cover today. And then let's look at the actual map going from left to right. On the left, we have North and South America. We have the USA dominating here, Canada on the top, Central and South America below here. We got the Atlantic Ocean. Here we have the European Union countries, mostly developed countries. We got Russia up here, which we'll talk about in a minute. Got a little cluster here of Middle East countries, South Africa down here at the bottom. Further over on the bottom, Australia, a few other Southeast Asia countries here, India, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and then this big turquoise one here is China. So in terms of their ranking, of course, the U.S., the big behemoth at 54%. Next is Japan at 7%. China, 6%, still considered emerging markets. And then over here, Great Britain at 5%. We have a number of 3s and 2s and 1s spread around the world. And then there's some that are too small to get a percentage. Okay, so with that, now let's talk about a little more detail. You probably noticed the Apple symbol here. So what we did is that Apple symbol is not actually on the map. The map has a little dotted line, and then it has really tiny print that says Apple. So each year when they make this map, they'll show the biggest U.S. Capitalized company individual stock and how it looks in terms of its size compared to the size of the U.S. And so as you can see, that's a pretty big chunk of that 54% is Apple. What we did is we just added that little symbol there to make it stand out better. So yeah, sure enough, USA 54% and Apple. And if that symbol wasn't blocking it, and if you could read the small print, it says Apple 1,305 billion. Well, how does that compare to actual countries? So let's go look over here at Russia. Russia alone is too small to meet the 1% range. So they just show the value of the market, which is 306 billion. You could fit 4 Russias inside of Apple. So that just gives you an idea of how big a successful U.S. company can be, just compared even to the rest of the world's countries, which is pretty amazing. Now let's look at the country by country performance. Now this is developed countries, and each column represents a year. There's 20 years of data here from 2000 to 2019. And each year we've ranked the country performance from best down to worst. And as you can see, there's no pattern. So if you're wanting to, put all your money in that winning country next year, good luck with that. You might be best picking off one of the ones here at the bottom because they do go up and down a lot. Very similar to mutual funds, by the way. And so we just for fun and with no pre-planning, literally just, grabbed it out of the air. We thought, oh, we'll look at New Zealand. And that's just because I saw New Zealand had a couple high finishes here, especially in the last 2 years. So we went in here and we connected all the New Zealand. So you can see how New Zealand varied over time. It's been quite variable in the last 10 years, especially, but it's not at all unusual to see this kind of variability. All right, now let's check the emerging market countries. Same exact kind of chart. I'm not going to go explain it all over again. And if we go here, again, just purely at random with no pre-thought, no pre-planning, I just grabbed Egypt. And what I didn't realize, I saw Egypt at the top a few times, but I didn't realize that they were also at the bottom even more. So they actually had 4 out of the 20. So 20% of the time they were the worst performing country, but they also did finish in the top 2 6 times. So quite a bit of variation there. They were at the top or bottom more than they were in the middle. So that's Egypt. So let's take a look at what those numbers actually look like. So here you have a rate of return result for the U.S. large cap stocks, U.S. small cap stocks, Egypt, and New Zealand. So what you see is that the S&P 500 index was at 6, Russell 2000 small cap 7.5, Egypt 8.5, New Zealand 9 1/3. And if I was to guess in advance, I would have said Egypt would be the top performer. And the reason why is because usually the bigger the risk, the greater the return. That's why the S&P 500 is a little bit lower, because of all the different stock indexes you could invest in. That's probably considered the least risky one, but even though it is still stocks. Russell 2000, because it's the United States, even though it's small cap, which is more risky than large cap, still it's the U.S. small cap. So it was fairly, well, it's good return, but lower than both Egypt and New Zealand, which won. New Zealand won at 9 1/3. But look at the standard deviation. So the Egypt standard deviation of 32%. So you certainly wouldn't want to invest only in Egypt, because boy, you get whiplash following that country around as it goes up and down. So you want to reduce your volatility by owning more stocks and more countries to help even things out. Okay, and how does that look visually? So here you see the craziness of the Egypt here as it goes up and down with that very volatile series of numbers. And then we have New Zealand, which won, which was volatile, but not too much different from the two USA lines here. We have the small cap and sort of the turquoise here. It was not quite as volatile as New Zealand. And then we have the S&P 500, which was the least volatile of them. But we also have here the lost decade. So if you look at the first half of the data, the first 10 years is the lost decade, and you can see the S&P 500 was a little bit negative at the end of 2009, and then of course it went up from there. So what did we learn today? Well, we saw a different map of the world, and I bet you never seen one like that. And we saw the USA is truly the big behemoth. Oh my gosh, it just dwarfs the other countries. And even largest US stocks are larger than a lot of markets. We saw 4 Russias fit inside of an Apple stock. And we saw the country by country performance is volatile and changes a lot year to year. Same thing with emerging markets, which is even more volatile. And the S&P 500 seems calm comparatively, but that's just because that's the least risky stock index to be in. And so it tends to be a little bit more stable, even though it's still a volatile stock index. And this just points out the need for diversification. You don't know who's going to be the winning country, so you want to own them all. And you want to make sure that you own all the winning stocks. So you pretty much want to own them all. So these are the lessons. Diversification is always so critical. Just never forget diversification. Got to promise me that. Hold up your right hand and say, I promise to never forget diversification. All right. So thanks for being on. I look forward to delivering chapter 6 in the very near future. And everybody out there, have a fantastic day, and God bless.